on all things relating to, I hate the buzzword digital transformation, but all things digital transformation in the public sector. Please let us know where you're joining from in the chat. And I'm going to pull up the chat box really quick so I can see where you guys are joining from. And today we are going to do a little Olympics in the form of digital transformation questions. So I will be prompting my team here with questions and possibly handing out medals for the best response. But I do want you guys, our viewers, to join in and also answer. Let's get this conversation rolling and let us know what you think. So, hi, Jim. Thank you for joining us from Madison, Wisconsin. Yay.
Jim Horsey, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yes, welcome. Really quick, I am Megan Seaton. I'm the Business Development Director at Avero Advisors. And with me today, I have David Buchan and I have Mr. Abhijit Varekar, who is our founder and CEO. We do have a few guests that may join us later, but we're just going to let them hop right on and join right in. So, AV, David, do you have any words to say before we get started?
I do, and I'm going to then let David speak. So we want to remind our listeners, viewers, that our major event this year, the GovTech webinar, the workshop is coming up on the 28th. The QR code is displayed to my right here, and please scan it so you can attend. We're going to have some great panel discussions on all things digital transformation and modernization in governments, especially on ERP systems. We're also talking about AI and its impact on government, also something everybody's talking about, but I don't think anyone's figured it out yet. But we're going to be talking about that and then taking questions. So really excited for this event. So please join us. And if you can't, if you sign up, it'll be recorded and we'll make sure that you get it. So with that, David, opening thoughts.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is David Buchanan. I'm a senior consultant here at Avero Advisors. Excited to be here today, try and beat AV out for some gold medals, of course, but it's a great topic. I encourage everybody to comment, question, ask us your questions. We're more than happy to talk to everybody. Just excited to get going.
Yes. And David, tell us a little bit about what you do for Avero.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Avero, I work closely with all the projects that I'm currently on. So some of them including public safety. I personally have a public safety background working at a local sheriff's office over here in Tennessee for 5 years before. So working on some systems to try and help make some of those employees' lives a little bit better, a little bit more efficient. Not as many headaches sitting in front of a computer saying, "Why can't the system do this?" That's our goal, is to make your dreams, come true for the future state of your program that you're going to be working with. So that's mostly what I do. So it's going to be a lot of talking with clients, figuring out what they want out of their future systems and helping them achieve that dream.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Okay. Hey, Kyler. Hey, Arjun. Thank you guys for joining us today. I appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. Real quick, just to make sure our audience is engaged, let's start out with a fun question, a question that I think is a great conversation starter. So in your all's opinion, and audience, please chime in, Michael Jordan or LeBron, who's the greatest of all time? Who's the GOAT? And why?
I mean, it's Michael Jordan by far. Haven't lost in a single NBA Finals. That's my opinion. The man's perfect in NBA Finals. LeBron can't say that. So it's Jordan for me all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's apples and oranges, and it depends. Can I get a medal for saying it depends right away?
No medals in this round.
I mean, I'm a Clevelander. I grew, LeBron. I watched his career from the beginning. So, and I wasn't here for the Jordan era, although I've followed him a little bit. So I'm gonna say LeBron. Sorry, David. Gold medal here.
Yeah. I think this is an easy one for me too. It's MJ all the way. I consider GOATs just not only just insane athletes, but someone who really sets the tone for that next generation. And I think Michael Jordan has done that for the LeBrons, for the Kobe's, for for everybody, the Steph Currys. I grew up with Michael Jordan, and I really, I also like his leadership style. He was very aggressive, and he gave harsh and critical feedback to his teammates, but basically he was the one that was always saying, "Hey, you need to get your life together. Like, let's go. We've got a job to do." And so I really appreciate that aspect of Michael Jordan. And I think in the chat here we have Michael Jordan for the win. So thank you guys for chiming in. Marcus Harris is here joining us today. Hey, Marcus, thanks for joining. Okay, let's dive into it. So first, I think.
Don't forget
What?
friend Eric Weintraub from UKG. He's here.
Oh, hey Eric.
We're pulling the All-Stars here
I
today.
missed you. Yeah, we got the All-Stars on the live stream today. I'm so sorry, Eric. I didn't mean to miss you. So sorry. You were right before Marcus. I'm blind. So just forgive me. All right. So this is going to be the qualification round. Okay. So to get to the I guess the race or whatever you want to call it to actually medal. All right. So the category is technology trends. Okay. So Olympic athletes, they always stay ahead by adopting the latest techniques and different methodologies, right, for their said sport. So what emerging technologies should local governments be aware of to enhance their technology efforts?
I'll let
Absolutely.
you go first,
So
Rookie. Go.
Okay, absolutely. So definitely a big one that's been out there is the use of AI. So AI is getting more and more familiar. People are getting more and more familiar with it, seeing the capabilities that it has, and there's opportunities to leverage those capabilities to make your day more efficient. Spend the taxpayers' dollars a little bit more efficiently. So I would definitely say AI is probably one of the biggest things that are coming on the scene right now that people are getting really, really excited and interested in.
Yeah, AI is emerging and important, and like I said, there's several flavors, and we've seen anything from just putting a sticker on ChatGPT to some really advanced use cases conceptually. It isn't out there working, to my knowledge, yet. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But also the methodologies, right? I think innovation doesn't necessarily mean a brand new piece of technology or an app. It also means how you go about transforming your organizations. And I think we at Avero, I know this may not get me the gold medal, but um, we're on the forefront of thinking about how do we better deliver services to our clients. And I think we're on to something, because the discussion from yesterday about how do you do requirements, and is it still the same old 20-year-old methodology? And no, we've come up with something new. And I'm going to stick that thread from LinkedIn in the chat box here for people to go engage in. It's a great conversation on how do you innovate the process of picking the right software for your clients.
Yeah, no, I like those answers. And Kyler says, I'm going to go cybersecurity, which is not as cute as AI, but critical. And I would absolutely agree with that. Do you all have thoughts on cybersecurity and what that means for public sector organizations?
Yeah, I mean, cybersecurity is definitely, the biggest space. As Kyler said, it's not as cute as AI, but it is massively critical. Cybersecurity is kind of that foundation that you have to make sure that all your data is secure. You have a lot of sensitive data, especially when you're working in local governments, housing authorities, police departments. So cybersecurity is definitely one of the biggest things. It should be one of the most robust things of your department, and it's something that needs to be maintained constantly, especially with these new and emerging threats, which artificial intelligence does play into as well. There's new cybersecurity attacks. That stuff that we didn't think about 5 years ago is now happening on a day-to-day basis. So it's making sure that your cybersecurity is robust enough to withstand that threat and keep you protected constantly.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
and look, Eric's got a great comment here. Tech that assists the frontline worker.
Mm-hmm.
Government is really in the customer service business. Things that completely make sense, because at the end of the day, the frontline worker doesn't necessarily care about what stickers on their platform,
Mm-hmm.
right? They want their jobs to be better. And I think we'll be all successful as an industry when that line is blurred, and you don't have to think about, I am stymied in my process because my thing doesn't work as I want it to be. It should be seamless.
Right. Okay, next question. So, athletes do a really good job engaging with their fan base, right? So, in the public sector specifically, how can the use of technology help local government agencies effectively engage better with the citizens that they serve?
Absolutely. Avi, you want to go ahead, sir?
Sure. Um, I think it's a big piece of the ecosystem, right? Why are you in business as a government entity? To serve your citizens. And how do they know that you're serving you're seeing, yeah, the trash truck is picking up the trash every Wednesday. I'm getting tax bills, but what else are you doing for me, right? So transparency is a very big part of being a good government organization. And it's been the theme of mayors and city managers strategic plans for many years. Where it falls short is how do you actually do it if you don't have the systems and the processes. And then you also run into, wait a minute, I don't want that much transparency.
Mhm.
So when you think about requirements, going back to how do you choose the right systems, it's about the outcomes. How transparent do you want to be? Because we've seen all flavors. One is you can allow the citizens and anyone in the world for that matter to get into your systems and look at line item by line item transactions. And then there's another flavor where you're only showing the highlights. And the third flavor is non-transparent. You get the budget book once a year as part of our council meetings. So very important to think about these things.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, transparency is a huge deal, especially, citizens want to know where tax dollars are being spent, what new objectives are coming. A big thing with transparency, I've seen some cities or just local governments poll their citizens like, hey, we're thinking about implementing this technology, smart traffic lights to help better efficiency with traffic. They'll be transparent with how much the estimated cost might be, and they'll reach out to their citizens and say, hey, is this something that we want to, that you guys want us to achieve? Do you want us to strive for this? Also, if you're going to use stuff like AI, I hate to circle back to it a little bit, but it's also good to kind of poll your citizens and say, hey, is this something that you're comfortable with? This is how we would be using it. So it's those transparencies with those new innovations and making sure that the public's aware of what's going on, they're okay with it, and they're happy with it. So you're achieving what they ultimately want.
Yeah, I like it. All right. One last question in this qualification round. And it has to do a little bit with regulatory compliance. So, just as athletes must comply with strict regulations, right? How can local governments ensure that their technology initiatives comply with the regulations and standards?
Go ahead, David. I know you
Okay.
have the
Yeah.
answer.
No. Absolutely. Always. No, I mean, a good way to make sure that it complies is obviously just going through doing your homework. There's a lot of information in compliance law. It's not just a checkbox. It does this. We're good to go. It's going to be doing that thorough deep dive with it. And that's going to be a lot of part of your system selection. Make sure that everything lines up to those compliance regulations. So it's a lot of work on the front end, but obviously it does pay off. It's not something that's meant to be daunting. It can be at times, especially when you're talking about compliance, but making sure that you get that on the forefront and doing that homework ahead of time is going to be the biggest thing to help you out.
AV,
I
do you have anything to add?
No, I'm kind of stumped on this one. Good answer, David.
Yeah, that was a great answer,
Yeah,
Dave.
give him the
All
gold.
right. And then Kyler has a great comment. Effective communication is also crucial. The government is often seen as secretive, so a campaign to communicate the benefits of new technology should be launched. Yes, I do
Yeah,
agree.
and we've sorry, but I'm
No,
gonna
go ahead.
back up. We've done so when we do IT strategic plans. Several cities in the past have asked us to engage with the end user, not just the internal end user, but we've also done surveys of citizens. We've gone and talked at town halls on what the taxpayer expects from a city's technology stack, and it's very difficult for people to understand, right? And so it hasn't been a very useful exercise at that level, because the answers we got were, we want more Wi-Fi in the dog park, or we want we want more
Right.
Wi-Fi somewhere, right? And it's not necessarily that we don't have access. You just, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. We need Wi-Fi in the parks. So getting input from the citizens is important, but also to contextualize what a city government does for them is also important.
All right, this is the round one of medals, okay, and it's more along the lines of technology strategic planning. So the category is long term vision, okay. So Olympic athletes, as you all know, train for years just for their one race to medal, right? And they all have a long term vision in mind. So how can local government agencies develop a long term vision for their technology strategies to ensure sustained progress?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
go ahead.
Go
No,
ahead, sir.
you
Okay.
spoke. Please. Go.
No, absolutely. Just trying to get that medal, AV. That's all it is. So a good way to kind of do that is doing some of that planning on the forefront. So it's not always going to be, if you're looking at long-term IT strategic plan, it's not necessarily going to be just an ERP system. It's going to be multiple objectives that you have. It's going to be
Mhm.
implementing those AI features. It's going to be more transparent with your community. So it's going to be organizing all those ideas. And a good way to do that is kind of speak to your departments within that local government. It's going to be like, what do you have right now? What do you want to see out of the future? So that way it can all be built out, it can all be planned out, and you would have it, this would start Q2 of 2025, for example. So you can strategically plan those initiatives, you can have estimated budgets, and city council and everybody's aware this is what we want to do within the next 5 years. This is, how much this initiative is going to cost, and this is when we recommend starting it. Doing that can ensure that proper planning process. So it's not just one day you wake up and say, let's do this. We've got that 5 year plan. Let's follow that to a T. And I've noticed that that's been very beneficial to a lot of our clients that we work with. They love those strategic plans. They go off of that, and it always helps them.
Yeah, and to add to that, David, there's always a starting point, right? Most city governments, counties, they have some kind of um, guiding document. They might call it a strategic plan that they keep up with every 5 years. They might call it council directives, what have you, right? And invariably, those things are talking about more economic development. And then if there is economic development happening, what do we do with all these people coming in here? We need more transportation, we need more technology, we need more transparency. All of that leads to how do you do it quickly and most efficiently is with the better use of technology. So if you're using 30-year-old tech, it doesn't quite lend towards meeting your objectives, right? So the next layer to those guiding documents tends to be a technology strategic plan, because those are the tool sets that will allow you to get to your vision in the next 5 years. Otherwise, a big part of it will remain unachieved.
Can I answer as well?
You're not in the metal part. Sure.
Since this is gonna, I think you should engage with a consultant like Avero. Here's my plug for Avero Advisors. I think with long term visioning, sometimes to break down those silos, you need a third party advisor to really help you set those goals and help you articulate that vision. You may have a city manager who is thinking long term, but doesn't know how to articulate that vision across all departments. So let us help you bring that vision to light and get everyone on board. So I think I get the gold for that. Right. I'm just kidding. No. So I'm going to give gold to David because he went first. He had a great answer. He was ready for it. It's almost like he's trained for years for this. But AV, you're in close second with the
All right.
silver because
All
I
right.
did like your thoughts on that.
Who's keeping track?
Um,
I'm gonna keep
I
track.
don't know. I can on my whiteboard right here behind me if you'd
That's fine.
like.
I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So gold for Dave, silver for AV. All
Okay.
right. Kyler says, what about the agile versus waterfall implementation approach in a local government environment? Do you all have thoughts?
Go ahead, David. Since you're a gold medal winner.
Oh, okay. Well, thank
AV's
you.
already mad. This is great. I love it.
Heavy as the head that lies the crown, right? No,
That's
so
right.
agile versus waterfall implementation. So agile, it can be a little bit more quick face. Waterfall is going to be that granular breaking it down, and there's benefits to both. If you're needing to get something implement it quickly. An agile approach is good, but also you got to keep in mind, what is exactly are you implementing? Is it a full ERP system? Sometimes that waterfall approach is going to be the best bet to make sure that everything's set up correctly on the forefront. Because the last thing you want to do is try and rush through everything, and then by the end of it, the system's not doing what you wish to achieve. Maybe you actually end up in a worse place than you were before if it was implemented incorrectly. So it really just depends on kind of the scope that you're working with right there. And if it's a smaller system, definitely an agile approach can take place. If it's an ERP system, you can do that longer process to make sure that this is going to be good, because that can be something that affects your government, or, your people for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah, and my thoughts on this are slightly different. I think those are great buzzwords in the field of software development. They're very applicable when you're in hosted SaaS environments, best of breed. How do you really apply agile versus waterfall? I think these words make our vendors sound very intelligent, incredible. But what does it mean to our clients, right? They need an outcome. They need the project done. They need the things to work. So when we typically see project plans from software vendors, they might call it agile, but when you look at it, it's kind of waterfall. So depends on who's asking and what the outcome's going to be. But in at the technical level, your answers are correct. But there's always the it depends and the nuance, and why are you talking about these things when you're saying that your product is plug and play? It doesn't matter, right? So as consultants, we need to be able to cut through that BS.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. All right, next medal question. Okay. And it has to do with resource allocation. So, athletes in the Olympics allocate their resources and time to optimize their performance. How can local governments allocate resources effectively to support their technology initiatives?
I think planning. I know it's the easy answer, but foresight uh, is a great thing to have when it comes to capital planning, right? A lot of organizations do it. They will
Mhm.
not just budget for the next fiscal year, but they have a capital improvement plan. And a lot of these projects need to be considered capital improvements because you're only doing it once every 20, 30 years. Think of it again like you're building a schoolhouse, you're building a sheriff's office or a jail. You have to have long-term planning because you can't just find the money, right? If you're trying to do a Oracle implementation, replacing your old homegrown system, those things cost money, right? So depending on the size of the organization, 15, $20 million to do it right, and you can't just come up with it. So good CFOs, good finance directors know this, and they don't just rely on the fact that we're gonna wait for the RFPs to come in and then we'll decide the budget. And again, consultants come in at that stage because we help our clients, especially the CFOs, plan for what that might look like, right? There might be a delta
Mhm.
when the proposals do come in, but more often than not, it's not completely out of the ballpark. So planning and capital planning is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And this might qualify for me for silver, unfortunately, but I'm going to go ahead and take that. I'm going to kind of reiterate a little bit what AV said. I completely agree with them. Planning on the forefront is the biggest thing. So these, large implementations, these are going to affect, like I said, for multiple decades. You want to make sure you get this correct. So the planning on the forefront is going to be the most important thing. A lot of times, somebody's going to go implement an ERP system, they might not realize how heavy of a lift it might be. If they
Mhm.
don't have a consultant in there to say, this is where we're going to need a lot of your time is going to be spent in the system, making sure, validation, making sure that all the data fields are correct, all the mapping is correct in the system. So it's planning all that out and making sure that you can go through that process thoroughly. And then by the end of it, you have a finished, completed product. What you ultimately desire, that will be a good asset for you and your government for the next 20, 30 years. If that planning's not done correctly in the forefront, it might not go as smoothly as desired, and it might not have the desired outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're sticking more so to budget with resource allocation, but what about your people? What about the time that they're going to have to put into this project, right? And they still have day jobs, and so I think it's even more important to engage with someone like us, who can help, sort of bridge the gap, right? And make sure that the people aspect is taken care of. So, AV, gold medal. I like it. I liked your answer. Planning, yes, planning is so crucial. Let's see. Let me go to the comments. Let's see. Kyler says, I think they need to ask for help. You don't know what you don't know, like AV said, every 20 to 30 years. Call the experts as an insurance policy. I think that's the overall theme of today. And then what else do we have? Agreed 100%. An external advisor who looks into the project from the side can save your project. All right. What's our score, AV?
We're 1-1.
1-1.
Gold.
1-1.
Right
All
up
right.
right now.
All right. So I want to move on to the next round. So this is going to be round 2, and it's going to be over ERP selection. Okay. So what criteria should local governments use to select the right ERP system for their specific needs?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of criteria that go into that. So first is going to be cost to an extent. So you're gonna have to make sure that you understand the pricing for that. Whether it's a 5-year agreement or however long the agreement is that's being proposed to you. So cost is going to be a large part, making sure that you understand thoroughly that contract, what all is going to go into that. But also another thing that is equally as important is the functionality. So you're looking to do this new ERP system to make a massive upgrade. You want to make sure that it actually is a massive upgrade and not just the same thing that you had before with a fancier coat of paint on it.
Right.
So it's going to be looking at that functionality, making sure that this does make your day easier and makes everybody's job a lot easier, a lot better, a lot more efficient, more data-driven decisions out of the system. So I would definitely say the 2 biggest things are going to be cost, and it's also going to be functionality as well.
Yeah. AV?
I think outcomes. Thinking about the outcomes is most important. Also, you have to look at it from the time, scope, quality perspective, and through that lens, what are the best outcomes can we achieve using these 3 parameters? Because if your outcomes are outside of the scope of the money you have and the time you have, the quality you expect, it's a different conversation. So good consultants will help their clients think through the project in those aspects, because you can ask for pie in the sky that doesn't exist yet. Like you can be the most creative person putting requirements together that are very nice to have but are not going to get you the outcomes. So you have to always match that. And again, back to our earlier comment, this is where we're going with our offerings. It's not just requirements based. It's what are you trying to achieve and how quickly, and that's how you proceed with this. A massive and this doesn't just apply to ERP selections, right? We're doing case management solutions. We're doing document management, housing management. It's the same approach, because at the end of the day, the software will do what you want it to do as long as you know what that is, and that's the most crucial part.
Right. And you guys alluded to it a little bit, but I think oftentimes when we go into an organization, our end users, sometimes they don't even understand what processes they're doing. Right. And so oftentimes, HR is shocked that they're doing the same process that finance is doing. Right. Maybe that's a bad example, but I think really sitting down and saying, hey, this is my process to process an invoice, and then figuring out why is this process clunky, and am I going to take this full process to this new system, or are we going to fix it before we get there? So I think understanding, really doing a deep dive into your current processes first will help you better define those outcomes in the end. So I don't know. This is a tough one. But Dave, I liked your analogy, so I'm going to give you gold on this round.
Why do you get to be the judge?
Because I'm the one that has the great questions.
You should have the audience.
Audience should
Audience should
vote
vote
on gold or silver. Someone
I,
might be a sore loser on this panel.
I
I
know.
have no issue with the judging here. Okay, I just want to state that I think Megan's
I
doing
think
a
Devin's
very
doing a
good
great
job,
job.
very professional.
And this is his first time on a live and he's crushing it.
I know.
So gold to Dave. All right. Let's go see if I have anything in the comments, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up here. Hi, Santa. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So Jim says, organizational change management has to be a major part of the planning process. Client resistance will prevent intended outcomes every time. Yes, I 100% agree with that. Change management is a huge part of any technology project and any project going on anywhere, in my opinion. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, and Jim and I have been in the trenches
Yeah.
together many times, and we have battled, not with each other, but with OCM and the best laid plans going awry because someone somewhere doesn't want to budge and keeps wanting to do the same old thing. So thanks for the memories, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. All right. Next category has to do with our vendors, and we could probably have a whole separate live on just vendors alone. But similar to how athletes evaluate their coaching options, right? How can local government agencies cut through the noise of everything that the vendors, software vendors in particular, throw at them on a daily basis? And more so, how do they cut through that noise to actually select a vendor? Which one do they go with? What are some of the things they should be listening to versus not listening to from our software vendor friends?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things to listen to for sure is definitely going to be support. Support's a massive thing. So even if it is the fancy system that does all the functionality, if it ends up you end up having issues and the support's tickets take forever to be responded to, there's a massive issue. You want to make sure that support's really, really good on the front end. So it's going to be digging down. It's going to be calling references. It's going to be asking those support specific questions. So it's going to be how many times do you have to spend taking it or submitting a ticket, excuse me, I apologize. How many times do you have to submit a ticket? How long does it take that ticket to be responded to? Is there an open communication with support? Have you had any major issues out of the system? So those reference calls are going to be a big key. And I understand a lot of times vendors will put references on there that, sometimes might speak favorably of them, but it's also just going to be getting out in that network saying, oh, you've used such and such. What is your opinion of them? How do you think about their support system? And gaining that information on the front end.
Good answer. Yeah, support is key, but also, does it exist? We've talked about vaporware before. A lot of times you go into selection situations or demo, and a provider will say, a client will ask a great question. Can your thing do blah blah and blah that we do here? It's required because of our really archaic county laws that they won't change, for example. And the vendor says, yeah, of course, by the time you're ready to go live, it'll be ready. In fact, it's being worked on right now. More often than not, that's not true, right? So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But there is some wiggle room there, because of how quickly technology changes, especially with SaaS products, which most of them are today. What you're looking at may change next week because of the next release coming in. So it's important that the salespeople you're engaging with are up to date on what the product pipeline is, what the product roadmap is, and features coming out. And my theory is it's getting homogenized. I still am yet to see where the unique selling points are going to be, and I think they're going to be in the space of customer service and responsiveness to the customer.
Yeah, both good answer. I'm going to add to both of your all's answers and say documentation from the client side. I think it's very important to make sure that you're documenting these outcomes and these different requirements so that software vendors, you can hold them accountable. And if you don't know how to do that, again, business development director, please call us. We can absolutely assist you with that. So AV, I'm giving you gold this round. Oh, wait, are we letting the people vote?
No, not when I get gold.
Okay. All right. Of course not. Sore loser. All right. We're moving on to implementation. All right. So let's go project management. How can local governments adopt a phased implementation strategy to minimize disruption and ensure a smooth transition?
I think as a project management professional certified, by the way, um, I'll say that you have to follow
He's
the
very humble.
I know I am. I'm going for gold. Um, it's very important to lay out the stages of the project, right? You have to, first of all, think of what a project is. It's something that has a definite goal, a beginning and an end, and a set budget. And within those parameters, then now you have to think of this as something that has a start, has the resources required. Can you pull them all together and uh, communicate with all of the end users, the stakeholders, which tend to be end users, management, council, public? That's what a PMO should be doing, right? So you
Mhm.
have really three different parties involved in a large scale implementation where there's a dedicated project management office that's doing independent verification and validation of what the software vendor is providing. Are they staying true to the contract? Is the product being delivered the right product? Are we being invoiced for things that have been delivered?
Mhm.
And does this eventually work for our client? That's the PMO. And the client who, they have a day job. They may or may not have the bandwidth to, sit through configuration sessions and think about the project full time. But their CIOs and the IT organization has a big role to play in the project management of this. So going back to the basics, you need to have your ducks in a row. Have a PMO, have a communications plan, have a resource management plan, and all of these plans that the PMI talks about need to be in place. They don't have to be extremely detailed, but you need to know, how do you do change? How do you do people management? How do you change resources or get more at the outset based on what you're trying to achieve here?
Absolutely. I kind of hate to reiterate what AV said again. I've circled back to this again, but that planning, and I'm huge on planning. So it's going to make sure that you understand each and every single step of the process and making sure that you are satisfied with what's happened with it. So a project manager should be making sure that that plan is being followed to a T. There might be some slight variations there, some unforeseen issues, but obviously figuring out a way to mitigate those changes and challenges, make sure that you can stay on timeline as best you can. It's
Mhm.
going to be making sure something as small as making sure you have the right amount of people in a training class. You want to make sure that you have everybody in there, whether it's going to be train the trainer or classroom training. This is going to be a huge part. So it's going to be compiling those lists of we need, Bob over here, Julie needs to be in this meeting. And it's also going to be going through all that testing. So it's going to be making sure that your plan is being followed and each part of it, you're satisfied with the outcome of it. You should never leave a step of the project plan and say, I'm not really sure how I felt about how that went, but we'll keep going. No, you want to make sure that we've hit everything that we need to, so that way you can have that smooth transition at the end.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not in the delivery side of things, but part of the project plan is uncovering and identifying who's responsible for what, right? Identifying those roles, right? What is the responsibility of a third party consultant? What's the responsibility of the client? And what is the vendor responsible for? And communicating who's responsible for what. So great answer. I'm giving gold to AV because David piggybacked. So
Yes.
um,
Nice.
no, that's great. We
I
did
will.
have a question. Oh, well,
No,
sorry.
I'm going to add that
Yeah.
to your point on the responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
There's an industry term for it. It's the RACI matrix,
Mhm.
and we do that for every implementation. And if you need a sample or format, get in touch, and we can definitely give you one. Um, Very important tool.
Yes, absolutely. We did have a question. I know we brought up SaaS earlier. Kyler asks, speaking of GovCloud versus private versus public cloud, thoughts?
It depends. Sorry, but it does. Depends on your needs, your requirements, your outcomes needed, your budgets, how much risk you're willing to take, what kind of agility you need. There's several different ways of looking at that particular question, and we have some content on that on our YouTube channel. So I encourage you to go look at it.
Yes. AV, I'm getting you a coffee cup that says "It depends," and we can just,
Good. And
you
t-shirts.
can sip, yeah, and t-shirts, and we should wear them on every live stream. But all right, we're going to talk about data migration. So, how should local governments approach data migration to ensure integrity and accessibility during implementation of a new ERP system?
A good approach to data migration is definitely, and I'm not going back to planning here, setting those expectations up front, but it is going to be looking to see how much data truly needs to be pulled over. So whether that be for compliance purposes, and it's going to be a conversation that's going to be had internally. So you're going to make sure, are we pulling over 50 years of data? Are we pulling over 20 years of data? Making sure that you have that expectation up front, and it's communicated to the vendor as well. This is how much data we're looking to pull over. So that way, when you come to that step, you don't have a surprise saying, I thought we were only doing 10 years, you need 50 years. And then next thing you know, you're having to sign a change order for extra money. So it's going to be a little bit of that planning process, but making sure that you're getting over the critical data that needs to be brought over for sure.
Paul Byrne was on our live cast last month, and he said, what did he say? Leave your baggage behind.
Yes.
Right. and a lot of times it tends to be emotional baggage. We don't know if we're going to need this, but what if we do? And more often than not, like David said, you don't need it. You don't need 20 years of transactional data. What we have done helping clients in implementations is 1 year of transactional data and maybe 3 years of balances. And the rest doesn't go away, right? The previous vendor, you own the data. So you should be able to transfer it to your systems in archival format. There's several different cloud-based solutions that help you to keep your data somewhere in case you need it, and you can always access it. But in my experience, it's very rare that you have to go back to the February of 1984 to look up transactions. It's not a thing. So it's an emotional discussion, and it's emotional baggage many times. So leave your baggage behind. Just take some things that will help you move into the new house.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I would just add, make sure you know where it is, where does it live, and is it clean? Is it ready to be moved over? Okay. And please look on our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos out there about data cleanliness and how to ensure a smooth transition. Clay says, approach data migration early. You never know what big issues you will find until you dig into all of it. Better to find those sooner than later so you can formulate a plan. I agree with that, Clay. Thank you for chiming in. I'm giving Dave the gold on this one because AV, you stole someone's analogy instead of coming up with
Right.
your. All right, let's talk about post go live support. So, athletes obviously when they finish their event, they celebrate their victories, right? So, how can local government organizations, number one, make sure that they're on track for that victory, but also celebrate their milestones within any technology project?
A good way to make sure that you're staying on track is definitely following. I keep going back to planning. Like I said, planning is a huge thing with this. It can't be understated. It's a huge thing for me. It's making sure you're going through that plan, like I said earlier, making sure you're satisfied with each and every single outcome. So that way, when you do come to that final moment, you can actually feel relieved and celebrated that, we put all this time, all this effort, all this work. We made sure all the boxes were checked and we have a successful go live. So I think a good way to celebrate, I speaking from a lot of clients' experience, and I went through it with them. These implementations sometimes can take a while, and they could take a lot of heavy lift, and there'd be a lot of long nights where you're working on mapping, making sure that data is clean, it's validated, we're all good to go. So by the time you can finally just take that breath and say, whew, we're finally done with that. We've got what we wanted out of this. So I think that's gonna be the biggest celebration, is that everybody can kind of go back to their full-time job and not have two full-time jobs with the implementation. So that's a big celebration, just taking that weight off people's shoulders, and it's a great, it's a sense of accomplishment. You just accomplished a massive thing, something that's going to touch many people for the next, couple of decades. So that's going to be the biggest celebration. I think a lot of clients would feel that way too. I was just speaking to a couple of ours. They say we're almost there, we're almost done, and they're going to feel very relieved at the end of it.
And how can clients define success?
So it's important to define it early on. Again,
Uh-huh.
don't, the software vendor's interest lies in taking you live quickly. And if you're not paying attention, that you can be taken advantage of. It, not necessarily out of malice, but
Mhm.
things like, what's a go live date? Don't be dictated to on a go live date, right? Because it needs to be your definition of what go live means to you. It's not a date, it's a set of milestones you've met. And then when that happens, you go live. So paying close attention to that is one of the biggest things. And going back to celebrations, we've done barbecues on go live days. We've done, happy hours on go live days. One of our clients right now, the CFO, all he wants is I think he said chocolate milkshake from a specific place in that town on the day of go live. And so it's a wide array of celebratory sort of milestones uh, when that big day happens.
I like it. I think this one is a tie, and I think I want to engage the audience for the very last question of the go live, and I'll take multiple if you guys will blow up the inbox here, but or the comment box. But please send us your questions for the last little bit here, so that we can award an actual winner. What do you got?
Eric has a good question.
Okay.
I mean, and this is specific to ERP system. Age-old question: is ERP a business system for the CFO or a people system? Hard to have it all. What do you think, David?
I, I agree it's hard to have it all, but I think it definitely plays into both for sure. A
Mhm.
business system on the same point, you can get, with a good system, you can get great data to pull to, if you want to create spreadsheets, charts, just those data visualization pieces. But also from a people system, a good ERP solution should house some of those functionalities. Yes, I agree it's hard to have it all, but I think it should play in both realms in all honesty. If you have a good, robust ERP system that meets your goals and your needs, that's one of the big keys of an ERP system. You want to be able to have everything housed in one system as much as you can. Obviously you don't want to restrict yourself. Not saying to do that to, we're going to lose some functionality. There might be some places where it's not going to be housed inside of an ERP system, but it should house both and work interconnected.
Well, I'm going to take a different route from that, right?
Okay.
It's horses for courses, as it's turning out to be. I'm not saying I advocate for one method over the other. But if there is an option for you to get something that is really good for a specific function over a full suite that has scratched the surface of every function, you need to think deeply about what that is. The other thing is size of the organization, the different um, functions and solutions you offer to your customers is important to keep in mind when you make that distinction and that decision, because it's not a blanket statement, right? This is why consultants love it depends. Tell me more about how you want to apply um, these theories to your organization, and it's not always a straightforward cookie cutter answer, but there are pros and cons. Again, we did some content on this not too long ago on best of breed versus all in, and the pros and cons and where the market is headed. And there's various different models, right? You have all in products and major software houses that offer it all, like Oracle's cloud. It's got it all. You've got Workday that is coming up with different modules. They got financials, HR, and they have a slew of partners they bring to the table. UKG offers a great HCM only solution. um, so there are very niche players, and there are players that can do it all. Tyler Tech has all the modules you can imagine. So what flavor works for you, it really depends on what your situation is. And again, you can only get there through a robust process of uh, ERP strategy and selecting the right product/products.
I agree with that, AB. There is no one size fits all for every organization. You've got to customize it, and that's based on what your organization does on a daily basis from a process standpoint and beyond, and what you're wanting to gain from the overall experience. So, great answer. The gold medal question, we got it from Kyler. It's a good one. Are cloud systems actually cheaper?
A
Ooh.
lot to look into that with cloud systems. Are they actually cheaper? So there's a whole lot to break down in there. So an on-premise solution, you're going to have to maintain a server room. You're going to have to maintain however many servers. There's a lot of stuff that goes in that server room. It's making sure that the temperature in that room staying correct. You have proper security at the door. It's also making sure those servers don't become outdated. They'll have to be replaced at some point. If there's bug fixes, that's a heavy stress in the IT department. So it's hard to sit there and say from a just dollars aspect. It's going to look at it from a peace of mind aspect. So you're going to have to keep that IT staff. They're going to be living in those servers a lot more if you have an on-premise solution, whereas opposed to if you have a cloud solution, these vendors, they'll do the bug fixes. You don't have to worry about maintaining a server room. You don't have to worry about my servers are getting outdated. We're going to have to put that in front of city council for budget and make sure that we can acquire those new servers. So I think it's definitely a peace of mind thing for sure.
Well said, David. And also, how do you look at funding, right? CapEx versus OpEx. The big promise 5-6 years ago was you can now, if you're upgrading, if for creative financing, you can shift it from capital expenses because you don't have to spend the $20 million up front to sort of operating expenses. You can put your SaaS payments under OpEx. So it depends on how the CFO looks at it. In the long run, if you just multiply the monthly payments by a lifetime value of the software, the math will work out to be more expensive just by the numbers. But to David's point, what is it buying you? And if you say yes to this, what can you say no to in your infrastructure and in your organization? So it's a very nuanced discussion. And again, it is not just based on comparing two sets of numbers. You have to have a subjective end to that decision.
Right. No, great answer. Great answer. Oh man, who am I going to give the medal to? I'm going Dave. I'm going
Oh
Dave
man.
just because I mean, I'm so proud of you, Dave. You've done a great job on the live, and you gave our viewers a lot of great insight into project delivery and how we go about thinking about things from a third party independent advisor perspective. And I really appreciate you joining us today. So way to go.
Thank you.
Our gold medal winner. And as we wrap up today, what is that? We can't
That's the
see.
score.
Oh, okay. All right. You should frame that. Put it in the new office.
4-3. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. Okay. Well, as we wrap up today, do you all have any final thoughts to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, absolutely. One kind of final thought. A lot of the discussions that we've had is a lot about planning, but just keep in mind there is a lot that goes into this, a lot that goes into planning. A lot of times it can be a heavy lift, especially if you're trying to take this on by yourself. Please feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to discuss, what we can do to offer to help you, but B, just how heavy of a lift this is. There's a lot of times where, some governments they'll know a little bit about that process, but a lot of times this is the first time that people are doing it. So we encourage everybody, please give us a call. We're more than happy to talk to see if there's something we can do to help you guys.
Yeah. AV.
No, I will leave that on that high that David left us on. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Dave. And just to piggyback off of what Dave shared, we are active on all social media platforms. Please make sure you go out and give us a like and a follow. I like to say we give out tons of free advice every week. We have a great YouTube channel with more deep dives on some of the things that we discussed today. And then again, I want to reiterate our Government ERP Insights workshop. Please scan the QR code and join us. And as AV mentioned, it will be recorded. So you'll be able to access that at all times. But we have some exciting topics prepared for you guys, and we can't wait for this workshop. But in the meantime, catch us every Wednesday. We go live at 10 a.m. We'd love to see you there. And let's keep the comments coming in the comment box. We'd love to hear from you. So